Beijing is set to sanction 2 American defense contractors. Both have a hand in the U.S. selling arms to Taiwan. China is staying vague about its stance as the Russia-Ukraine crisis unfolds. Besides politics, food and energy considerations are joining the mix. 2 major Chinese e-commerce platforms have made it into Washington's notorious counterfeiters list. We take a closer look at what's been dubbed the counterfeit shoe capital of the world. And for those watching our full episode, we break down President Biden's strategy on the Indo-Pacific. The region is vital to America's future and is facing increasing aggression from Beijing. And Australia accuses Beijing of an act of intimidation. The call-out comes after a Chinese warship pointed a laser at an Australian military plane, an incident Beijing denies. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. The China-U.S. relationship is taking a hit this week. Beijing has announced new sanctions on 2 American companies, but the communist regime isn't giving many details. The sanctions take aim at aerospace and defense companies Lockheed Martin and Raytheon. That's over the defense contractors' involvement in an arms sale to Taiwan. It's at least the 3rd time the Chinese Communist regime has enacted penalties against the 2 companies. Earlier this month, the Biden administration approved an over $100 million arms sale to Taiwan. The transaction is meant to help Taiwan maintain its air defense missiles so it can defend itself, something the U.S. is bound by law to do, in accordance with the 1979 Taiwan Relations Act. A spokesman for China's foreign ministry condemned the deal as undermining China's sovereignty and security interests, and called out the 2 companies of infringing acts. He explained that the countermeasures were taken according to the country's new anti-foreign sanctions law, but didn't elaborate on when and in what way the measures would be enforced. Beijing regards self-ruled island as a province of China and has been sharply critical of all U.S. arms sales to the island. In 2019 and 2020, China announced similar action toward Lockheed and Raytheon, but Beijing never gave details about what those sanctions were or how they would be enforced. The United States does not sell weapons to China. What's more, Beijing has been sending more and more military aircraft to fly around Taiwan in recent years. That intimidation tactic is coupled with attempts to use economic power to coerce other countries to cut ties with Taiwan. Beijing remains in an awkward position as the Russia-Ukraine crisis unfolds. Under Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping, China has strengthened its ties with both countries. Beijing has repeatedly called for a resolution through dialogue without issuing support to either side. Next, we'll take a closer look at the relationship between China and Russia, as well as China and Ukraine.
China and Russia are believed to be in the golden age of their relations. For the first time after the pandemic, Xi Jinping met with Russian leader Putin in Beijing ahead of the Winter Olympics opening ceremony. They reportedly discussed a number of topics, including the pandemic, energy, economy, trade, and technology. A series of agreements were confirmed after the meeting. Among them, a new gas deal. That is, Russia will supply over 350 cubic feet of gas per year to China via a new pipeline from Russia's Far East. China remains Russia's largest trading partner for the 12th consecutive year. That's according to comments from a Chinese Ministry of Commerce official during a press conference last December. Customs data shows that energy and mineral products make up more than 70% of China's Russian imports. Dustin Walker is a non-resident fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. In an interview with Voice of America, he said a potential Russian-Ukrainian confrontation could also test the relationship between Beijing and Moscow. That's because Moscow could change its view of Beijing and see it as an unreliable partner if China chooses to comply with Western sanctions and save its own economy from retaliation.
That's what's in it for China if it was to side with Russia. But China is staying vague about its stance amid Russia-Ukraine tensions for a reason. As siding against Ukraine could also spell a major loss for the country. China needs Ukrainian corn and wheat to feed its people and animals. China first established a strategic partnership with Ukraine in 2011. Ukraine has some of the most fertile soil on Earth, covering 2/3 of the country's land area. The partnership seems like a no-brainer for China, which imports more than 100 million tons of grain each year. In 2013, China signed a deal to rent close to 250,000 acres of Ukrainian farmland for 50 years to grow grain and raise pigs. As for China's ultimate goal, it's hoping to co-develop close to 7.5 million acres of Ukrainian agricultural land. But what exactly are the details of the exchange? Ukraine provides agricultural land, while China provides technology in return. Under the agreement, crop yields are also exported to China at preferential prices. The Memorandum of Cooperation called it an important component of China's food security program. Since 2018, the U.S.-China trade war pushed China to expand bilateral trade with Ukraine. For example, 100% of China's corn imports used to come from the U.S., but as of 2019, around 80% of it shifted to Ukraine. China became Ukraine's second-largest grain export market in 2020 and its biggest trade partner. On top of China's conflict with the U.S., its issues with Australia play a role too. Trade conflict between the two countries means Ukraine is now a critical source of both wheat and coal for China. Coal from Ukraine accounted for 2/3 of China's total coal imports last year. What's more, Ukraine is also a key partner for Beijing's Belt and Road Infrastructure Initiative. The nation serves as a bridge for Chinese companies entering Europe. In 2020, the two countries signed agreements focused on the Belt and Road Initiative. And last year, they signed further deals on infrastructure development. The U.S. government is releasing the latest list of notorious markets. What's new on the list? There are two household names in China's e-commerce sector: AliExpress, which is owned by tech giant Alibaba, and WeChat, which is owned by another tech giant, Tencent. This is the first time that these two companies are on the list. The U.S. Trade Representative's office released the findings of its 2021 review last Thursday. The list highlights entities that allegedly sell or help sell counterfeit goods. In a statement, U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai said the global trade in counterfeit and pirated goods undermines critical U.S. innovation and creativity and harms American workers. AliExpress sells Chinese goods across the world, and WeChat e-commerce system has grown rapidly to be one of the largest marketplaces in China. In total, the U.S. government listed 42 online markets and 35 physical markets. Other Chinese online markets are also on the list, like Baidu, Wangpan, DHgate, Pinduoduo, and Taobao. The U.S. has been publishing the notorious markets lists since 2011 to help enforce intellectual property. There's been a constant battle tracing the counterfeit shoe market in China. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement published a fact sheet earlier this month, warning about China's fake shoe industry. They pointed to a case in 2018 when federal agents busted a New York criminal ring that manufactured counterfeit Nike shoes. Authorities arrested 5 people. In just 2.5 years, the gang imported over 40 containers with close to 400,000 counterfeits. They are worth more than $70 million. Federal agents found them at New York warehouses. But this is not new. Almost a decade before that, New York police seized nearly 300,000 pairs of fake Nike shoes. They had a market value of over $31 million. It's not easy to trace where the sneakers came from because the import documents contain fake information. But a U.S. immigration spokeswoman once said in 2010, probably in or near Putian. Putian has been dubbed the counterfeit shoe capital of the world. Among those most often faked are brands like Nike, Adidas, Jordan, Converse, Skechers, UGG, and Puma. Putian is a city in southeast China's Fujian province, just across the strait from Taiwan. The small, quiet city gets busy at night, packed with couriers picking up boxes of fake shoes. The couriers will deliver these counterfeits to middlemen, who then ship them to foreign markets. One Chinese estimate says Putian has several thousand counterfeit shoe manufacturers, nearly 10,000 middlemen transfer points, and hundreds of thousands of online shops. And in just one night, transactions can reach over $31 million. Back in 2010, a New York Times reporter pretended to be a dealer and asked a business owner in Putian how to get 2,000 pairs of fake shoes past U.S. customs. Here's the answer. They won't come from Putian. We usually ship through Hong Kong on our way to America. Don't worry, we do this all the time. Putian is now the symbol of high-end counterfeits. It has been making fake shoes for decades. Now it's hard to distinguish the sophisticated fake ones from the real ones. They are known as high imitation products. The fake shoe makers often use leftover materials from the original makers. The workers are masters in the industry, and they buy authentic blueprints. Or an experienced person from the industry would buy authentic shoes, tear them apart, and get the design for their counterfeit shoes. The fraud industry goes to such an extent that when people are buying shoes, sellers can even provide invoices. According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, shoes ranked number 3 in terms of the type of counterfeit goods they seized in fiscal year 2020. That's one place higher than a year before. And that's all for today on YouTube. We are now sharing a shortened version of our program on YouTube. Full episodes can be watched on our website, www.ntd.com/ChinaInFocus. You can also find out where to watch us live on cable in your city at ntd.com/TV or on NTD's partner platform, Epoch TV. To sign up, please click the link down below. Thanks for watching and see you tomorrow.